I can see her starting from a place of like maybe
Hmm.
she's regressed a little bit, maybe she's retreated like into herself a little bit. But at some point, even if she's not going to regular therapy, I feel like time will start to help. And for the listeners, like I am not a therapist. I'm someone who has been to a lot of therapy. Um, and so yeah, I don't know. I've just always had an issue with that aspect of the
Sure.
character.
I
So
Yeah.
agree. I totally agree. The
Yeah.
thing that I think has saved Harley Quinn and that does not get enough credit are the people that have portrayed her.
yes.
Um, you know, Margot Robbie
Hmm.
did so much for that character in live action, and in the cartoon, it's actually Kaylee Cuoco who
I can see
is a
that.
producer and basically is one of the people that makes all the decisions
Okay.
on the show. And so I really, it is a breath of fresh air. But yeah, I see things like this and it brings me back to why until that really revolution started, I was not a fan of Harley Quinn.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. We can move on. I just like that's a rant I go on about Harley Quinn a lot because
Sure.
That's
it's
all right. I
like
started the rant, so.
yeah, it is made
No, I
me
hear you.
not want to seek out that stuff. And even though I've been hearing, like you said, for 4 seasons now that the show is incredible, it's just
Mhm.
been like, oh, do I want to watch her? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
No,
But
I
yeah.
hear you. It's the same thing that stopped me from watching. Um, but anyhow, okay, so back on track. Okay. So they're kind of bickering a little bit, and Harley's like, well, all this tension is boring. I'm going shopping. Catwoman and Ivy continue to bicker kind of in the background, and Harley kind of looks up and is like, hey guys, guys, look, and finally gets their attention from the bickering, and points to this large open window, and it looks like the city is on fire
Hmm.
outside. Um, and so we cut over to Oracle, who is watching all this on a computer screen and is being contacted by Talia al Ghul, who wants to know where Selena Kyle, aka Catwoman, is.
Hmm.
Um, and Oracle's like, well, why would I tell you that? Uh, and Talia says, because she's walking into a trap. My complete unfamiliarity with a lot of these characters led me to think that this was art of Black Widow standing on a rooftop. Uh,
It
because
could
that's
be a Black
exactly
Widow, yeah.
it's exactly pretty much exactly what it looks like, except for like the belt buckle being the wrong shape, and the
And
white
she's a
gloves.
couple shades too dark to be Natalia or to be Natasha.
That's true, but
Also, she's in the exact wrong universe.
in this
Well, also true.
particular panel, the way that her face is like lit is kind of
Hmm.
indistinguishable. Like at first, I
Mm.
really like genuinely when I read this for the first time, I was like, "Who the fuck?" But yeah, it's Talia al Ghul. So they're in the remains of like the desiccated park, talking, Harley, Ivy, and Catwoman about Zatanna, and who apparently has burned this park down. So this is a separate incident from the other park incident. So just keep
That's
that.
confusing to have these in the
It
same
it
book.
is really
Hmm.
confusing because I thought that this was like the aftermath of what had happened in the previous
I
story
mean, I
arc.
even said that earlier with the like radar
Yes.
thing. Like that would
Yeah,
make sense to me if like that
it
happened and
it
then
would.
Batman's reacting to it and going like, "Oh, look,
Right.
some magic happened because plant magic was happening." Okay, whatever.
Yeah. And of course Ivy's like, I can't just sit by while somebody burns my trees down. And I was like, bitch, you were just wait, this is a different park. People are just burning down parks in Gotham City like day to day. Like this is a whole thing. Anyways, um uh as they're talking, suddenly Ivy becomes paralyzed. Zatanna is here. Uh, and Zatanna's like, "Hey, Catwoman, I told you what would happen. You shouldn't have done this." And Catwoman's like, "Well, you didn't tell me somebody set fire to a bunch of trees." Um, and Zatanna's like, "Well, the last thing I need is her trying to regrow them while I'm trying to figure out who started the fire."
Mm-hmm.
Um, as they continue to kind of back and forth, there's like a river that's running in this park, and there's something kind of slowly emerging out of the river that looks like a big bubble.
Yeah, like
Um,
a water spout by the end of it.
yeah, and once again, Harley sees this while they're all chatting amongst themselves, and tries to get their attention. Is like, "Hey guys, guys,
Even though Catwoman is straight up facing it at one point, and
yes."
so is Zatanna. They should both see it.
They should have been seen it, but they were too focused on arguing. Um, and it's too late. She does not get there their attention in time, and a large wave of water like knocks them all to the ground. And Harley's like, "Hey, you guys really need to start listening to me." Um, as they get up and look around, though, there's like mud people that are now surrounding them that apparently came out of the water. Question mark. Don't know. Uh, and so they all start fighting these mud people. Um, Also, there's a fire guy.
There's like a bunch of
That
elementals. There's like
yes,
earth elementals and fire
there,
elementals if you've played, D&D.
Hmm.
yes, and fire guy who was probably the one who was responsible for burning all these trees down. Um, and Zatanna uses like a water jet to try to snuff out the fires.
I think
Talia
you
al
mean a
Ghul shows up.
retardage.
Ta- Talia al Ghul shows up and she warns Catwoman to look out, and as she looks down, there's like a circle of earth that seems to be like cracking away, like underneath her feet. And before she can really, like do too much, she kind of manages to jump a little bit, and this like earthen hand like grabs her and starts dragging her into the earth.
Ooh, that's actually kind of creepy.
Yeah. And then she's gone. And everybody's freaking out. Zatanna is like, "Hey, you to Talia is like, hey, you gotta explain what you know and explain it now." Um, so she says that 24 hours ago, the black market got a kidnapping job in Gotham sent to it. She looked into it, and came across some guy who couldn't tell who was behind it. Um, but she did realize that it was kind of like a distraction technique. They needed to buy some time.
Hmm.
Um, and Talia's like, yeah, it's not what she has, it's what she knows, is why they wanted her. And we see Catwoman, who is, essentially bound hand and foot, knocked out on the ground, tape over her mouth. And you see some people talking off panel that are like, hurry, it's not going to be long until Zatanna finds us, and like, silence, I must concentrate. Um, so I guess in a previous comic, there was a mental block put on Catwoman to make her kind of forget about Bruce Wayne, his identity, because she does know that Batman is Bruce Wayne.
Hmm.
Um, but Zatanna,
But in this world, Batman is Dick Grayson.
this is
Now, currently,
now,
yes.
currently.
Okay.
So
So something
he's
that she knew like 2 years ago when she was wearing the same fucking dress we saw her wearing earlier. Okay. This is not confusing at all.
Yes.
we, uh, we are a third of the way through this, by the way.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I just there's a lot. This is very dense. Like it's a good story, but there's a lot. They talk. Talia and Zatanna are talking about how Zatanna placed this ritual on Selena, so that she couldn't tell somebody, but she still knows who Bruce is. And as long as she knows her mind is vulnerable, somebody can invade her mind and pull that secret out.
Hmm.
If
Um,
you remember, we have been through this before in
yes.
the first issue,
Yeah.
when we were dealing with Bone Blaster.
Oh, I forgot about Bone Blaster. How did I forget about Bone Blaster? It's been several months since we recorded that episode, y'all. But yeah, Bone
Yeah,
Blaster.
Bone
So,
Blaster.
so once if somebody's able to like manipulate Catwoman's mind, they can have her lead them right to Bruce. Um, so it's clear now that the scene that we saw at the beginning of the issue with her, like, walking through the halls of Wayne Manor and meeting up with Bruce and having a lover's embrace and the whatever, all that, this is inside her head. This isn't happening for real. Um, it's just an illusion. As we pull back from Wayne Manor, we can see that it's like surrounded by those like mud people and fire people that are kind of closing in on it.
All right.
And we can see, um, in the next issue, it's just a continuation of this. She's embracing Bruce. I love you. as these mud fire people are, are around the outside. Um,
There's so many of them.
there's a ton. Um, and they are embracing Bruce and Catwoman, as the glass from like the skylights and the windows are like blown in, um, as these elementals start to come through, the windows and the skylight and the fireplace and wherever else. There's like water coming through the fireplace, fire guys, mud guys. Um, and all this is taking place. She's just knocked out, uh, and we return back to Talia, Harley, Zatanna, and Ivy, who are
Helpfully
uh,
labeled.
helpfully labeled, which I really enjoy. Um, and Zatanna's like, I know she's close, but I can't tell where something is obscuring my magical abilities. Um, nobody here is really friends too. They just are kind of like, oh yeah, well it's because you suck. Uh, as they are continuing to kind of bicker, the earth suddenly splits open and leaves Harley and Ivy on one side and uh, Talia and Zatanna on the other. Um, through like down into like this big crack in the earth. Harley's like, "Hang on, we're coming."
Hold on, Kitty. And she does say Kitty this time.
She does say Kitty this time. Hang on, Kitty, we're coming.
Somebody told her that Caddy is not a good nickname.
Yeah, it wasn't
Right.
good. Didn't work out.
She's just trying it out. She's workshopping it.
Right, exactly. You got one, and then you were like, "This doesn't feel right. I'm never going to do that again."
Right.
Uh,
It's like playing a Tremere.
So, meanwhile, in Selena's mind and Catwoman's mind, she's now fighting these elementals with Bruce and Wayne Manor. And he's like, "There's too many. We've got to retreat," and they start to run.
Uh-huh.
Meanwhile, our girl gang is also running through like the earth, this tunnel in the earth that this crack opened up, I guess.
The giant
Uh,
cave full of stalactites and stalagmites that take hundreds of
yes,
thousands of years to form that just got
yes,
formed by this crack in the
yeah.
earth. Great, great. Mhm.
I mean, Gotham City is apparently built on an elaborate cave network, as we know.
Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
we do know that because of the Batcave.
yes, exactly. That's what I mean. Uh,
I wasn't sure if you were being sarcastic or not.
yes, yes, I was being sarcastic. Uh, so, Harley and Ivy are like, okay, like they're still trying to work out. They're like, we don't know why anybody would want to kidnap her. We don't know what it is that she has that they want. And Zatanna and Talia are like just kind of giving each other like behind the back grimace faces, like,
There, okay. If there's anyone in the DC universe that should have a much better poker face, it is Talia al Ghul and
right?
Zatanna.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't in this issue. And then finally, Ivy notices that they're not being particularly talkative, and they're like, "Hey, what do you know that we don't?" Um, and Talia's like, you know, uh,
Sorry, I read the line. It was good.
yes, like what you don't know staggers the imagination. If I was to start talking right now, we'd all die of old age before I finished. Um, so they're continuing to run, and this panel is kind of set up to mirror. They're running from these elemental things as Dream, Selena, and Dream Bruce are running from these things in Wayne Manor. Um, so they still try. They keep trying to get the truth out of Talia, and she's being evasive and is like, "Hey, wait, be quiet. I can sense her. We're almost there." As she says this, some like a big piece of earth like dislodges itself, like a stalactite dislodges itself from the roof of the cave and comes straight at them. Harley manages to push Zatanna out of the way, and then Talia's like, "Oh no!" And then a bunch more of these stalactites just start like rocketing off the top of the cave and are heading straight for them. Everybody manages to kind of evade them, and then when Talia looks up, she sees somebody called Shrike. I am not familiar with this character at
Shrike.
all, but apparently he is an assassin.
All
Uh,
right.
and she knows who he is. She's like, "Hey, are you working for hire again?" And he's like, "Yes, I'm an assassin. That is what we do. Plus, I want to learn his identity." And Harley's like, "Whose identity?" Um, and it is quite clear at this point that something is up that these two don't know about. Talia manages to silence him uh, for a second, and is like, if you want to take me down, you're gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way. Uh, anyways, girls, this is about Batman, Batman's identity. And Harley does mention, she says, I thought that Kitty said that Batman isn't one person. Um, I don't remember if this took place in book one.
You did.
Yeah, it
Okay,
did.
okay.
Because they initially, right as the team was getting together, they were like, okay, but if we're going to do this, then you need to level with us and tell us who
That's
Batman is.
right. And
Yeah,
she was
yeah.
like, yeah, that's right, because she was telling the truth. She was like, it's more than one person, it's multiple people. And they were like, you're full of
Which
shit.
is true at this point.
Yeah.
Yes,
It was
yes,
not true until like right before this.
right. Exactly. But we have seen as we've seen earlier, it's definitely is true. Um, and this Shrike guy is like, wow, wow, Harley, you're as gullible as everyone says you are. No wonder Joker's been able to keep you wrapped around his little finger. This triggers Harley and she freaks out. She's like, don't bring his name into this. She goes after him with a mallet. And Zatanna like manages to kind of like pull her away. And she's like, me and Poison Ivy will deal with her. Just let it go. You worry about going after Selena. There's fighting that is interspersed with what Catwoman thinks she is seeing in this sort of dream state or hypnosis state or what have you. So it kind of flashes back and forth between the actual fight and then, Selena in her evening gown, like, running with Bruce through the Batcave and surrounding area. In the dream, uh, as Selena manages to catch up with Bruce, uh, as one of these mud monsters is kind of closing in on him, he's like, "It's all right, Selena, you did what you could, goodbye," and then just gets consumed by these elementals, like the fire guys, the clay guys, as she watches, and she's calling out, Bruce, Bruce, as her eyes open, and she's back conscious again. There's some old dude there in a white, looks like karate uniform, who's who's like, Bruce, I should have known. Uh, just as Talia and Ivy show up, and Talia calls him Senpai. He
And
recognizes
suddenly
her
it becomes a weird manga.
yes, and says, "Hello, Talia."
Because he
Um,
noticed her.
he did notice her. And they Shrike jumps into like this hole as Zatanna and Ivy are closing onto him, I mean. And Ivy's like, how did he do that? And why did he ask you to send him pie? Again, the stupidification of
See, that I don't
Harley
mind so
Quinn.
much because I can understand why she might not have encountered the Japanese term senpai. Like that doesn't bother me nearly as much as the pheromones one.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like I mishear things all the time, and if it's in a foreign language, I double mishear it.
Mhm.
So that one doesn't get my
It's
goat
not,
nearly as badly.
yeah, it's not as egregious, but it's still like, you didn't ask one weeb. Uh, um, but Talia says, that's his name. His name is Senpai,
Not a name.
and she hasn't seen him in years. Um, Catwoman, of course, is very disoriented and doesn't know where she is. Harley goes to untie her and is like, don't worry about it. You're safe now. Several days later, Talia and Zatanna meet up to kind of discuss. And Zatanna is like, hey, look, it doesn't look like they stole Bruce's identity. Who is this senpai fella? And she says that he was her grandfather's most beloved studio.
Student, but yes.
Oh my gosh, I can't talk. Most beloved student. And so she's like, this is about revenge. Bruce killed my grandfather. Her grandfather is Sensei, apparently. So
Also not
there's
a name. Not a name.
and
Right.
Senpai. Yeah.
Absolutely.
This is again, yeah, somebody who ask one person who speaks the basic Japanese.
I speak basic Japanese. This is making me angry. Like,
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like one, what? Ask one weeb.
And I mean basic. I'm not that great at it, but I know the terms sensei and senpai. Like, come
yeah,
on.
it doesn't make a ton of sense, but it is what it is. This is what's happening now. We're just strapped in for the ride. Uh, and so Talia talks to her about how you know every day that Catwoman continues to know, even with like the safeguards that she's quote unquote installed in her mind,
Hmm.
she really can't be trusted with that knowledge. And she's like, we gotta mind wipe her. We have to mind wipe Selena's, Bruce from Selena's mind. Um, Zatanna leaves this encounter, uh, and she's pretty conflicted because she does not really like the idea that she might have to do this. Like, memory is very precious. She doesn't want to have to do this, but she does think Talia's right. Like, there's no safe way to go about this with her continuing to have this information.
Hmm.
Um, and she mentions, Bruce is too important. If something happened to him, just terrible things would happen.
Which, by
Um,
the way, Bruce is assumed to be dead at this point. So, yeah.
Huh.
yeah,
But I
it's
guess it's if Bruce is exposed, then the entirety of the Bat family. It's just a series of dominoes from there.
right, right. That was my thought too, because I was like, okay, like, all right, so even if Batman is capital D dead for real, um, yeah, there's still like Damian Wayne and everything else. So like there's still a
But
Wayne.
couldn't Damian Wayne and Dick Grayson just lie?
You'd think.
We
I
didn't
mean,
know, and we don't condone his actions. Like,
I
Right.
actually don't know if this, because this is genuinely something that I have no experience with, but I don't know if Damian Wayne was ever publicly acknowledged as like Bruce Wayne's son, like, this is my son, and bring him to the debutante ball in Gotham City, my son Damian, my son, like I don't know if Damian is a public figure the way that Bruce is.
That's a good question.
So unclear. I apologize to any Batman fans that are more knowledgeable at this that are like, hey, idiot, it's this way. But like, I really don't know. I have not read enough Batman comics in the modern day during this particular storyline to know whether or not that's the case. Um, but Zatanna, anyways, is like, and she can't be trusted with this. Uh, but she's still not sure.
mhm.
And she meets up with she summons her father, who's like a ghost,
Mm.
to like seek his counsel, basically. And she is like, I have to do something I don't want to do, and he's like, well, you've done it before, and you even did it to her. Like, what's the problem?
Mhm.
Um, and she is like, I'm taking away the person that she loves the most against her will or wishes. You know, and like maybe maybe this would be for the best. Maybe she'd be happier, or maybe not, you know. And she does mention, she to herself internally, that she might be letting her own feelings for Bruce cloud her judgment here. So she doesn't really want to make this choice, which is understandable. This choice sucks.
Yeah.
Um, and her father even is like, yeah, I can't tell you what to do here. Only you can make that decision. Um, but he does say, sometimes to do what's right, you have to do what's wrong. Um,
The only good men in this comic are dead.
yes, Ghost Dad.
And I,
So,
for
so
one, support women's wrongs.
Oh, but Ghost Dad was portrayed by Bill Cosby, so
oh, I forgot about that part. I never saw the movie, so
oh, okay. Well,
I saw that movie at a sleepover when I was like 5, and I don't remember, like 6, and I don't remember anything about it.
you're better off.
yeah, it was not impactful on the cultural zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Um, other than the title.
Right.
But so we cut back over to Harley, Ivy, Catwoman, and Harley is yelling traitor at one of the two of them. It's unclear which.
Ivy. Ivy's yelling.
Yeah, sorry, Ivy's yelling at Harley and Catwoman. It turns out she's yelling directly at Catwoman, who is the traitor. Um,
Also, this is called Iratse, which is history backwards for those of you who don't speak Zatanna.
Speak
oh,
Zatanna. I love it. Like
so
putting fluent in Pig Latin on your resume.
Yeah, yeah,
they're bickering about this particular secret of Batman's identity, and Ivy is of the position that
Oh my God, Harley Quinn is dressed like Avril Lavigne in this. This definitely came out in
Yes,
2009. I can tell.
yes.
Hmm.
Um,
She had a tie
but
over a strapless corset.
uh, Ivy is of the opinion that Catwoman should have told her about Batman's identity. Catwoman's like, I couldn't have done. Um, I didn't. Like I didn't lie to you. Was physically prevented from saying so. Like, um, the rituals. That's why I can't be coerced. Like I physically couldn't tell you. Um, and Ivy's like, well, if you're loyal to us, you got to prove it and tell us your secret. Tell us who Batman is. And she won't. She won't do it. And Ivy's like, oh, look at there she goes choosing a man over her girl.
You mean like you did 2 issues ago, Ivy?
Right, exactly. No self-awareness. Um, and she does point out too, like, Catwoman points out, like, you would never say that to Harley. We both know she'd dump us in a flat second if Joker called her. And Harley's like, yeah, 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 she's got a good point. I would do that. Uh, and so they continue to bicker. Talia, meanwhile, is watching from like a rooftop
Through the
vantage.
gigantic window that they have open.
Yes. Um, and she's talking to somebody in like a communication system, and
She looks like Black Widow again.
yeah,
Like a
she looks like
lot.
Black Widow again. It's revealed that she's talking to Zatanna about the plan that they need to enact as they're watching these gals bicker. Um, so um, as Talia watches, Zatanna transports Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn to her location. Just teleports them, just like poof, they're like in mid argument. And they're in some forest somewhere, unclear. And before Ivy starts growing vines immediately. And before she can even get close, Zatanna teleports away back to where Catwoman is. She releases a spell to bind Catwoman with like her mystic chains or whatever. Um, and Harley and Ivy are back in the middle of this forest now, bickering amongst themselves. Like why should I help her? You know, what should I? Which why should I bother? She's got the secret. She's not even going to tell us. Um, and Harley tries to kind of talk her is like, what if your flowers had a secret identity? Would you give them up? Um,
I think somebody needs to tell these women. I'm not gonna call them girls, even though they keep calling themselves girls. Like somebody needs to tell them that relationships, including friendships, are built on trust, and they need to start like
yeah,
trusting each other. Because I feel like
yeah,
every issue so far, they have some huge fight where they're like, oh, I guess we're not really friends because you did one weird thing, and it's like, why do y'all even live together? Do you even like each
right,
other? Like,
right, you're right, and that's kind of the overarching
So
idea here.
it's hard to tell in comic books because of timey-wimey stuff in publication history.
uh-huh.
But I believe that these women are all in their late 20s, which tracks for that behavior.
I
I'm just saying,
guess.
I've known a lot of people in their 20s that are like, "Oh my God, you're not my friend." And
See,
it's just, yeah,
I I feel like they're all late 20s, early 30s, and I mean, especially considering Selena and Bruce's relationship, I really hope that she's over 30,
yeah,
because
no
he
shit.
is he is well over 30 in those pictures earlier. Um,
Yeah, it's
but
unclear how old anybody is.
I feel like they're all acting like college students. Like I feel like they're not acting like full adults.
Yeah, yeah. And they're definitely immature throughout the course of this story for sure.
Anyway,
Yes.
yeah.
Um, okay, so we cut over to um a car that is being driven, and it has been set upon by some fines. And Harley looks in the window and says, "Hiya, Puddin'."
Oh no.
Meanwhile, Zatanna and Talia are trying to extract this information from Selena, and Zatanna's hesitant. She's like, I need to, she's like, oh, I need complete concentration. Like I got to do this right, or I'll give her brain damage. And Talia's like, you're stalling, but she is, and she feels like there's something that she's missing or not understanding that um, she's not seeing here. She knows this isn't right. She can't put her finger on it. Despite this, however, she attempts to do it anyway. Um, and we then see kind of some of the memories that Catwoman has of her encounters with Bruce, like her fights, her, their romantic relationship, all costume stuff. Um, and now it's all gone. Um, so it turns out that red car was just stolen. Harley and Ivy stole it.
Hmm.
Talia al Ghul sees that they are heading her way and takes out the car with her rifle, flipping it. They emerge okay, uh, and as they get out of the car, they're being shot at by Talia. Um, Harley's like, "Who would shoot at us?" And Ivy's like, "Well, Joker would for one."
Accurate.
Um, and she's like, "Oh well, but besides that, who else would do it?" And Ivy rightly realizes that they're being stalled. Somebody's trying to buy themselves some time. Um, they approach the building where Catwoman's being held, and it explodes, or at least the lower level. Like there's a big explosion on the lower level. Um, and Ivy starts growing her vines to kind of hold the building together, basically, before it starts to collapse on them.
Hmm.
And she manages to do that. Like she manages to keep the building intact, which impresses Harley Quinn. However, this is still the building that Zatanna is in, and she's trying to concentrate. She vaguely knows that something is going on outside there, but and it shows like there's a building crashing into this building, and she's paying it no mind. So I don't know what I'll never know what that's like, but but good on her. Um, as she's going through Selena's mind and pulling out all of these memories, she finds one where someone is talking to Selena, another woman, who says that there's been many women in Bruce Wayne's life, but only two he's truly loved, you and I. Um,
That is a flashback from the earlier story. She's talking to Talia.
yes.
Hmm.
And she's talking to Talia. Zatanna kind of recoils in horror and is like, "Oh no, how could I have been so stupid?" Um, it turns out that Talia set all of this up. Zatanna's like, what was it? Is it the fact that Bruce loved her, or um, were you afraid that having another woman in his life would threaten your son, Damien, uh, taking over the Batman persona? This was where I learned that Damien was Bruce and Talia's son. I did not know that.
Ah,
I was like, oh, well, okay. This
Little
makes a lot more
little
sense
tiny
now.
revelation if you haven't read the Batman comics where that kind of thing
Yeah.
happens.
And like she looks to be about the same age as Damien, so like good on her. Like whatever moisturizer she's using is working. Um,
as Damien?
like
Damien is shown to be like 10.
Yeah, Damien's
Damien
a
is
kid.
Robin.
oh, I thought he was I thought he was older than that in the previous. Like I thought he was like at least in his teens, like late
No,
teens.
no, he's in like, if he's in any teens, he's
Maybe
in
he's like
early
12 or
teens.
13, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay, that changes it. Yeah, because
But
in the
also every
previous,
woman in this comic looks 26.
right,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, they're all drawn to be very young, but like even in the like arguably in the panel we see of Damien here, he looks young, but I don't think he looks like middle school young. I feel like he's like looks older. But anyways,
You can
that
see it more in
moisturizer,
like
it's great.
full
Yeah.
when you see a full length image of him, the way his body is drawn, it's very clear that he's like 12. It's
Okay.
just harder to see it in the face by itself. But
Hmm.
Yes.
like at this point in the comics, he very much does look like a kid.
Like a kid. Okay.
Hmm.
Either way, the retinol is working. Um,
Accurate.
He's keeping it tight.
um, Talia's like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" Um, and it turns out that she's the one that Damien had called to like set this all up. Um, And Zatanna's like, if you want to convince me otherwise, I'll check your memories. I'll do telepathy on you and get that figured out. And Talia's like, absolutely not. You're gonna have to come and get them if you want them, and pulls swords on her. Um, they continue to bicker about whether or not Talia set this up, and Talia's like, I was trying to protect the father of my child. Um, it's not me being evil. I just, I'm stronger than you. Um, it was easy to kidnap Catwoman. It was very obvious that Bruce's secret was extremely vulnerable with her. I orchestrated the whole thing, and I'm in the right here.
Made a
Um,
monologue, Talia. This is exactly what
yeah.
all villains should do.
Right?
Um, so Zatanna is like completely incensed by this, and Talia's like, look, you know, we have to do what's wrong to do what's right. Um, and Zatanna's like, well, who defines what's right and what's wrong? Um, you've used the quote unquote truth to manipulate me. Um, they start fighting. They don't get very far.
Doesn't seem like a
Um,
fair fight when Zatanna can just say disintegrate backwards and like murder
right,
people if she wants
exactly.
to. But there's like power level fight things that happen in comics all the time where you're like,
Mhm.
really, like this should be really easy. So they've had to orchestrate a way to make it harder than it should be.
Right,
It's why
exactly.
every Justice League comic has to start with how do you remove Superman?
Yeah,
Right,
basically.
right, right. Um, uh, so now cornered, Talia is like, oh, look what you made me do, basically. And clicks a button on a remote control. She just kind of pulls out of somewhere. And two missiles just get fired directly
What?
at the animal shelter where Catwoman is sitting, chilling. Um, it gets blown up. It gets blown up big time. Um, Harley Quinn is beside herself. And she's just sobbing in the wreckage when Ivy's like, hey, Harley, look up. And we see that Zatanna has protected herself and Catwoman in like a energy sphere, basically. Um, and they literally do the, yeah, you're like fist pump, you know.
Kitty!
uh, we later see
The
Catwoman,
Venom symbiote? Like, what is
yes,
that?
back in costume
This is a weird statue, I guess, in
next to a
Gotham.
gargoyle that's for all intents, it's just so weird.
Okay, yeah, I
Yeah.
guess it's a gargoyle with a rib cage on the outside. It straight up looks like Venom
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
because of the white rib cage on the
Yeah.
black.
Once again, my cognitive dissonance, I was like, that's not even in the same company.
No, it's not,
Right.
but it looks like it.
um, so we later see, yeah, so it's Catwoman by this weird gargoyle. And she's meeting with Zatanna and it's like, hey, haven't you fucked up my life enough? Like, what do you want now? Um, and Catwoman's like, if I ever see you again, I will kill you. And Zatanna comes even closer. Uh, and she starts to say that she came to apologize, and Catwoman's already got her whip around her throat. Um, and she's not wanting to hear what Zatanna has to say. Finally, Zatanna's like, listen, I saw your mind. I saw what you think about Bruce and um, that I also saw that you wish you never met him and that your life would be easier without him in it. So, you know, as an apology, um, I'd like to do something for you. We cut over now to the Gotham County Arboretum, uh, where that what's his name? The broker, yeah,
The broker. I
the
love him.
broker.
I love him as a
Yeah.
The
concept.
concept is wonderful. The broker is showing the girls this prime piece of real estate. Um,
Is that a farmhouse inside like a dome?
Yes, it
mhm.
absolutely is.
Why is there a farmhouse in the Arboretum?
The only thing I can think of
I guess like a
is that
caretaker's house, maybe?
yes, is that it like it may have been this is like yeah, the caretaker's house, and then they just kind of built the dome around it later. Like this was built in 1903, and then we built the dome in 1997, sort of situation. But yes, so that's what's
Huh.
happening. It's surrounded by like a greenhouse dome. Um, the arboretum, to be clear, not the house exclusively. Um, and so Poison Ivy, of course, likes this place. Harley Quinn was hoping to have like an abandoned fairground with a tunnel of love, um, which Ivy immediately is like, absolutely not. Selena is like, you know what, we'll take it. Just bill me. I don't care how much it costs. And then she dips. Um, in the there's like a director's office, kind of like in a separate building outside of the house area. And Harley and Catwoman are kind of talking in there, and um, Selena's like, I'm fine, don't worry about it. Harley kind of keeps pressing, like, are you sure? You sure you sure you don't want to talk about it? Um, and she does, but she's like, I used to be a therapist. Please cut the shit. Uh, just, I'm gonna sit here until you start talking. And they do sit there for a little while until finally Catwoman's like, look, I'm not gonna tell you who he is. And Harley's like, that's fine, you don't have to. And she's like, I don't know where to start. Uh, and Catwoman continues, saying like, you know, Batman and her have a long history. There's nobody else who knows her better. Um, and there's nobody else that she knows better. But there are times that she thinks about and realizes that she doesn't really know him at all. Um, and that even sometimes when he was standing right in front of her, he wasn't really like present. He was always thinking about what he was going to do next and what he was going to do. But he wasn't there like being present with her. His mind was elsewhere. And at those times, she wished that she had never met him. She feels something close to hatred every time she has her resentment and frustration at who he is as a person, kind of bubble to the surface.
Mhm.
Um, and she wonders if there's other ways that she could have been happy or other opportunities that she missed because she was with this guy. And she almost accepted when Satana made the offer to make her forget everything. She almost said yes. As they're talking, the panels are mirroring one another. Selena and Batman, and then Harley and the Joker. Um,
I love one minor part of this is that in Selena's part, and she sees herself looking into Bruce with the cowl on, and in the
mhm.
eyes it has
Mhm.
her reflecting back. But when Joker is looking at Harley, it does look kind of like Harley, but at first I thought it was Batman. That all he's thinking about is
Wow.
Batman.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like because I'm zooming in on it now and I can see it is definitely Harley Quinn's face, but yes, I can see where that would
For
be.
a second, I'm like, oh, he's looking at
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bruce.
because the way that the shadow is, yeah.
Yes.
Mhm. Yes, that would be really funny. But no, unfortunately it is Harley Quinn. Uh but as she's talking, she realizes like Harley is like got her hands like, on either side of her head, like kind of covering her ears. And she's like, wait, Harley, are you okay? And Harley's like, I gotta go. And she just dips. She's out of there. As she exits the Arboretum and sort of walks through the street, we have like the kind of like uh seeing his face everywhere sort of montage. Like everything reminds me of him, in the plants and
There's like drunk
uh
people
the
laughing. There's
drunk
like,
people laughing, the graffiti on the walls, the oil slicks on a puddle on the ground. Um, and she makes her way to this like old fairground area. Um, and I believe this is at least one of Joker's previous like hideouts slash lairs slash whatever home base. And she starts going through this debris outside the tunnel of love, looking for something. She's, where is it? I know he left it here somewhere. Um, as she's doing this, she's approached by Catwoman and Ivy, who are like, "Hey, what's going on, bud?" And she's like, "Nothing, nothing. Everything's great. I'm doing really good. How are you?"
hey, buddy,
Hey, bud.
Hey, buddy,
how you
what's up?
doing?
So, they're like, "Yeah, we don't think you're okay." And she manages to come across this duffel bag that's marked Joker's bag of tricks. And Harley is pulls it up as Catwoman and Ivy are like, hey, look, we're trying to we think you're going to make a big mistake. We're trying to stop you. Um, and Harley's like, after what he's done to me, after all the betrayal, all the abuse, all the dirty tricks, he's ruined my life. Um, and she reaches into the bag and flings out the little like Joker gas balls
Yeah.
at them. And they get knocked out, and she's like, I'm not gonna be stopped. I'm gonna kill him. I'm going to kill the Joker.
I'm here for
And
this.
yeah, and then she heads off to do exactly that.
So we're at 2 hours. Uh,
And
This
we're
we're about
halfway through
halfway.
the book.
we're
We're
No,
about
about
I'm
halfway.
aware.
halfway.
Yeah,
This
because
this
that
might
was the
be
strange fruit
I'm
arc.
even trying like not to ask too many questions. I'm just like listening at this point because I'm like we're
no,
so behind.
there's a lot. There's a lot. This might be a good place to stop.
Yeah, I also realized halfway through this that we did the same thing with book one, and we only went through the Union story, and there are two more stories in book
Oh my
one.
God, we messed up.
Uh,
This is just like it's so funny because for like a 2 book arc, which is however many issues it is, but it's like
24.
yeah, but it's still it's like 300 pages per trade, right?
Hmm.
Like these are dense because like I'm
Yeah.
used to comics where you're like, and then we spend 10 pages fighting. We can kind of skip some of that, but in this like. A fight scene will be like 1 to 2 pages, and then they're like, and now we're talking a lot of exposition again, and a lot of
Yeah.
background, and a lot of flashbacks, and I'm like, oh Jesus.
And a lot of psychology and a lot of like, things that you can get into a deeper discussion about, which is kind of what this
Yeah.
show is
Yes.
about,
It it kind of makes sense they're doing that there because like the one thing I do know about this series is that it was part of when they did Batman Reborn
mhm.
back in the, mid aughts or whatever. Um
2004, yeah.
yeah,
Or
so they
2009, sorry.
yeah, yeah. So since they are rebooting everything, this was supposed to be a jumping on point for new readers, which is why they have to explain everything. That's like why they're constantly like, oh, here's some backstory you don't know about, or here's this is a person's backstory, or here's what's going on with this person. It's like because much like New 52 type stuff, this was supposed to be like, oh, you've never read this before? Here, a bunch of new stuff is
Well,
happening.
that's the
Yeah.
weird thing is this was right before the New 52 reboot.
Yes.
And then the New 52 happened and Gotham City Sirens was never mentioned ever again. And then they've
It came back
recently
last
last year.
year.
Yep, last year
Yeah.
there was
Oh
a
wow.
4 issue revival comic.
Which I think is
I did not know
partially
that.
because people are super into the Harley and Ivy thing and the
Hmm.
Harley series and stuff. Like, they're always trying to get people retroactively into comic books after they've gotten into the like media, like the, television and movies media part of it. They're always like,
Hmm.
oh, you like that? Do you want to buy these $4 pieces of paper? And people are like, no,
Right.
it's very expensive to be a
Well,
comic collector.
yes, a long time ago, I made the decision that the first like the single issues that I had, great. I'm gonna keep some of them. I'm gonna get rid of other ones. I think I'm down to like 4 short boxes. And it's like, and I kept things like the entire run of Transmet or some of my
I mean,
Roving Gambit
sure.
stuff, that I'm like, it's not even the value, it's the fact that these mean so much to me that I'm keeping them. But almost everything else I've moved to trades if I really like it, a physical trade, but most of the time, Marvel Unlimited or, basically streaming services for comics, or getting them from the library or something. It's great to be able to pull a book off the shelf and hand it to somebody. And for sure, I have that. Like right now, I realize that I do not have the first trades of Wicked and the Divine because I have handed them to people and been like, here you go. I'll replace it, you
Yeah,
know?
when I worked at the comic shop that I used to work at, we got everything at cost. That was part of the perk of working there,
Mm,
was that you got everything at cost. So whatever we paid to Diamond, that's what we paid to the store. So basically they just paid shipping for us, which was great. But since Image does this thing where they always they sell the first trades for like $10, they always make sure that the first trades are fairly inexpensive.
hmm.
That mean that meant I got them for like $4 or something. So for the price of a single issue of like a DC comic, I got the first trades of most Image
Nice.
series that were out at the time.
Nice.
And I did the same thing with Wicked and the Divine, where I just kept giving it to people, and
Yep.
Saga also. I
Yeah.
kept giving
Yeah.
people free copies of Saga because I was like, whatever, I paid $4 for this. Please read the first trade and then go buy the other. I think there's 11 or 12 out now. It was like go buy all
12.
the other ones. Yeah, 12.
Yeah.
I don't keep up with any comics in real time. I keep up with them in trade time. So
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Same. And like, so I'll go and I'll like, either get it from the library or flip through it or hear about it and then be like, oh, is it on like Marvel Unlimited? Because I don't even think the DC one used to be packaged with Max, but it's not anymore.
Hmm.
Um, but and I don't read that much DC in general, except for this show. But yeah, when it comes to this show, like I have a thing where I will buy a physical copy of it, and so because of you know uh, copyright issue, I legally can own for a while a digital copy of that same thing. So
Hmm.
I just
Yeah.
go and get a physical book, and so it's funny because like our bookshelf is like things that we really like and have curated, and then just all of the random stuff we've done shows on.
I can see that. Yeah, like I said, I have a couple of little cube shelves of like my manga that I have, which is mostly like Sailor Moon and Utena, the trades that I've collected, of which there are a shit ton, mostly because of when I worked at the comic store, and then the few single issues that I have, which are a mixture of like free comic book day things that I just got because I worked at the
Right.
comic store and I could take one of each, and like some really weird rare stuff that I got because I worked in a comic store. Like I have a uh like signed first issues of a few things. I have like
Mm,
some random things. And of course, those don't get lent out because they're collectible.
right.
But yeah, like I honestly should go through my comic shelf and be like, what do I even have here? Because it's a bunch of random shit.
I just looked up at my wall where I have a bunch of either number ones or comics that are signed, and like so I have like Spider-Man and Black Cat that Kevin Smith did signed by him, and like Transmet number one signed, and then I look over and I'm like, oh, and then there's the Tempest issue of Sandman signed by Neil Gaiman.
I'm pretty sure I talked in the last episode I was
Damn
on about being a
it!
big Sandman
Yeah,
Neil Gaiman fan. Suffice
yeah,
to say, there have been some changes on that front since I was last on
uh-huh,
the show.
yep,
Mm,
Don't come for me. I'm still trying to figure out what to do with all of my signed Neil
yeah.
Gaiman stuff because he is one of
Yeah.
those people that like I think I saw him speak 9 or 10 times when I went to 7 or 8
hmm
signings. I have a ton of signed Neil
Oh
Gaiman
wow.
shit, and I'm like, I'm gonna keep my death stuff. Like I've got a really nice
yeah,
death statuette. Death means a lot to me as a character, regardless of the man.
Sure.
yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah,
but
no,
but
I have a
yeah,
graded first appearance of Death in Jen's statue case with like a Death statue and a bunch of other stuff with the Endless, and I'm like, and I think I talked about this last episode, but I think where I'm at is the moment that I found out they were a scumbag on, I'm not supporting any of their shit.
yep, same.
But
Sure.
whatever I have, like, you can't take that from me,
Right.
you
Right. Like
know?
the money has already been spent.
Hmm.
And
Right.
now in my case, the money was spent in 1990s prices, so he got even less
Oh
Right.
yeah.
than he would in the present day. So like that is what it is. Like I was a teen,
Hmm.
and again buying those things at 90s prices. So
Right.
um,
And
you
I mean,
know,
and I also wouldn't feel bad if I saw something that I don't have in like a half price books
right,
because,
right, where it's used
or
and
a
it's not
bookstore or something because it's not going back to him.
Yeah, I was
exactly
in a used and rare bookstore that we have near us recently. Not recently. I said the past 5 years are one thing in my brain. So if
Yes,
I
I
say
get it.
recently, I mean since 2020.
Sure.
Um, anyway, so I got first editions of both Neverwhere and Good Omens. And those I don't feel bad about because as you said, like he didn't get that money. That money went
Right.
to a
right.
really cool rare and used bookstore. And Good Omens was written by Terry Pratchett, as far as I'm concerned. Um,
Yeah, there was actually just a thing. There was actually just a thing about how there was a Kickstarter for a new version of the comic of Good
yeah, yeah, the
Omens.
like graphic version.
Yes,
Hmm.
and the and Terry Pratchett's estate put out a message saying Neil Gaiman's not getting any of the money from this, and they
Yeah,
offered refunds to everybody that
Oh
were
wow.
like not, that weren't feeling it,
Rhiannon Pratchett's a good egg. Is what I
Yeah.
will say about her. Like she's great. Um, I don't want to get super into all this. You all know what
Yes.
happened. You can go
Yes.
look at it on the subreddits and stuff if you want to litigate everything. You can still like Tori Amos because she's said some stuff that's great. You can still like a lot of people. You can like whoever you want. I just personally will not be giving Mr. Gaiman any money ever again. And
Right.
I don't love how I feel about having a bunch of books that he like wrote my name in at this point.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
those are the ones that I feel weird about. Not like my annotated Sandman's, not a bunch of other shit, but all the stuff where, he would sign things like Stardust and be like, Dixie, dream big, and like say all these like nice things. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Hmm.
don't love that.
Yeah.
Especially because I have a weird name, so even if I put them back out into circulation, I'm like,
Right.
oh, that's obviously mine. Come on.
Hmm.
So yeah, who knows? We're gonna figure it out. I've seen a lot of fans on the subreddit doing things like finding people who want some of these books and just giving them away for free or for a donation to like Rain. And I thought about
Hmm.
doing that. Like if people can prove to me they've donated a certain amount of money to Rain, I will send them some of my weird signed stuff if they really want it. But we'll
Yeah.
see. Anyway, no longer a fan of that person, fan of a lot of other people. And
Yes.
actually, I'm enjoying this, like going through this series a lot more than I thought I would. Stupid Harley occasionally aside.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you
I
Yeah.
mean,
know,
it wraps up really nicely.
yeah, it like seems like the arc we're at, like she's trying to get rid of this part of her past, which is nice. And
Hmm.
you know, I understand wanting to kill your abuser. That's
Well,
that's the
yes,
thing I can get
absolutely.
behind.
This very much, this whole series, and I do appreciate that it's not like 3 issues long where Harley has an awakening and is like, oh, I'm totally over the Joker. Like,
Right.
we
Right.
are 3/4 of the way through all of the issues of this, and she's still like, she has just gotten to the point of anger, you
And I,
know?
I feel like too, there's another series, and I don't know what it might just be her, like the Harley Quinn series. I do not know. I have only seen panels from it.
Hmm.
But it does seem that sometime after this series, she uh does kind of have that reckoning where she does, I mean, does end up divesting herself completely from the Joker and making a clean break. I don't know exactly where. I just like I said, I've only seen a few panels like here and there and seen some synopses and whatnot on like my comics YouTube channels and
Hmm.
whatnot. But so that is a thing. It does not take place in this, but it happens after at some point.
Hmm. I'm gonna have to look that up at some point because yeah, like I've been trying to come around on her as a character. That's part of why I
Yeah.
picked this was because I wanted
Mm.
to see like how she was through the series from like a decade and a half ago. Uh,
Yeah.
because like I've gone so hot and cold on this character, and
Yeah.
partially it is because of fans. You know how fans ruin everything.
Sure.
Like,
And I know like after this, like or around the time or shortly after she breaks it off with the Joker and is like, hey, this, it's done, it's over, I'm never going back, is when she hooks up with Ivy.
right.
Yeah.
Even though in this
So
series they don't seem to like each other very much, so that's also interesting to see
yeah,
like where that comes from.
it'll come around.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, this was written, well, the first story that we did was written by Paul Dini, who's the
Yeah.
guy that started Batman the Animated
Yep.
Series.
Right.
Uh, but what we went through today was written by Tony Bedard, who is a video game writer.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, it's interesting to me. Like, he did a bunch of stuff with the Exiles too, so, and Birds of Prey. So he knows how to put a team together,
Hmm.
Yeah.
which is, I don't know, it's just kind of an interesting thing when you look at who writes different comics, and especially when you have one writer and then another one like in between issues, and you're all of
Hmm.
a sudden like, whoa, that took a turn.
Yeah, he wrote a lot of comics, it looks like, and then went into writing video games, including one of my actual favorite ridiculous video games, which is Saints Row 4.
Oh,
Um,
I do love Saints Row
it's
in
great.
general.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
All
also
right.
like
Well, so how did we do
crazy.
today, Dixie?
I mean, I listened to a lot of episodes of Rec Conversations, and I feel like this one doesn't have as much of the like batshit plots as some things that y'all cover. Like, so far, this just feels like a very kind of decent middle of the road comic. Like,
Yeah.
it's not some of the mind blowing. Oh my God, how did they pull this off comics that,
Right.
you occasionally see? Like the, I've forgotten what it's called, but the like Arkham Asylum one that y'all did early on.
Arkham Asylum.
Oh, it's just called Arkham
Yeah.
Asylum. Okay.
Yes.
Or like Mr. Miracle, right? It's like
Yeah.
Yes.
it's like not anywhere near that, but it's also not garbage. Like it's
Yeah.
not.
This is
Right.
this is not a deep thoughts sort of book. Like it has elements of like, there's things to unpack in here, but it is not like it's not going to send you into some kind of like existential crisis.
Yeah.
Right.
On on the last one, the like, Catwoman centric story that we just covered, and even to some extent the Poison Ivy story, it feels like it does feel like that very like mid-aughts, late-aughts feminism, where they're like, but
Mhm.
there's 5 women on the screen, and I'm like, but they've been talking about Batman this entire time. Or
Yes.
they're talking about, Plant Man or whatever this entire time. Like, part of me was like, oh, it's really cool seeing like, 5 women characters on the screen. It's like the like main person in the story, but like everything's about Batman
Right.
when it comes down to it. And I'm like, I don't love that part. Like, why can't it just be about these ladies
Yeah.
doing things for themselves? But that is like kind of where media feminism was at the time, where they were like, here's some ladies, look at them.
Right.
Look at all
When
these
Batman's
ladies.
not on the screen, everybody should be asking, where is Batman?
Yeah, and that's something that I know that the more recent like Harley and Ivy and the Harley Quinn show have done a lot better. Like
Hmm.
the show is not a show that puts women on screen to talk about men.
Yes.
But that is kind of where we were in 2009, as far as I recall. I was in college then. Wrote a paper about why politics was more like reality TV. Keep in mind, this is 2010, 2009 that I wrote this. Um,
So
I if
it's your fault.
if only I had known. Well, it was a damning paper about how it shouldn't be like that. And then it got worse. But yeah, it's like this is definitely around the time of me watching things and being like, oh, this seems good, and then later on being like, that piece of media tricked me. That piece of media made me think it was good, but actually it was kind of insidious. Uh, so yeah, like
For anyone who wants to see the dude version of this, episode 28 is the episode with Dawn, where I get
Yep.
oh
fucking
God.
schooled by 3 ladies.
So, so, so yeah, y'all have done a great job explaining this, and I haven't had too many questions because this is such a straightforward comic.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Like,
yeah.
Well, we will definitely have you back because now we got to go back for
oh my
Songs of
God.
the Sirens is the second story in the first, and then Division is the last, and that's what picks up after this, where Harley decides she's gonna go kill the Joker.
I'm gonna need
Yes.
you to write like a 20-minute synopsis of the last half of the first one at this point.
Previously on.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, they have pretty good breakdowns on Wikipedia, so you
That's
know.
true. That's very true.
This has been fun though. I'm enjoying it,
Good.
and I'm definitely happy to come back and finish this up because now I actually am invested in the like Harley Quinn's gonna go kill the Joker. What? Like
Yeah.
Yes.
that I want to see where that ends. So
Excellent. Well, this is normally where I tell everybody what we're going to be doing next, but we are 4 episodes short due to scheduling and everything else, and we don't know what we're doing.
Question
So
mark.
after this is the first week I'm going to start editing and putting stuff out, and we have 8 in the can. So basically, we have 8 weeks for us to figure out what the hell we're going to do.
Yeah.
So
It may
yeah,
just end up being a shorter season. We just don't know.
right,
or
right.
maybe I'll come back and record again in like 2 weeks. Who knows?
There you go. If you have time, let us know.
Yeah.
And until then, take it away, Vandello.